Hello, my name is Autumn Moses. Today's date is August 3rd, 2017, and the password is popcorn. I will introduce you to my lovely audience members. Audience number one, audience member number one, audience member number two, and there's Janet, my real audience member. Woo! And then audience member number 4, and number 5. Do you remember the last time you were literally paralyzed with fear? When it was so dark that you could not see anything, and you had nothing to protect yourself from what could be lurking in this darkness? As an adult, you can rationalize away your fear and say, hey, I'm really not afraid, or I can just talk myself out of it, or I can run really fast and I'll be fine. But imagine yourself as a 5-year-old little girl, all alone, in a dark, damp warehouse, somewhere in the middle of downtown Seattle. When your mom left, she said she'd be back. But you're so hungry and terrified, all you can do is curl up in a corner and count the days that she's been gone with a rusty nail on the wall, hoping you can at least fall asleep. Maybe never wake up. Trauma. Childhood trauma. Thousands of kids around the world face childhood trauma every single day, and hundreds right here in our town. And what's even worse about this terrible story is this childhood trauma doesn't just affect kids, it affects them late into their adulthood and causes issues such as substance abuse disorders, family violence, and mental health issues. It may seem hopeless, but there's something you can do about it. And Art with Heart is pairing up with people to help these kids deal with their childhood trauma so they don't have to be haunted by these terrible issues later in life. As we look at the problems, we wonder, what are the true statistics behind this? The National Institute of Health says that more than 70% of people that live with substance abuse disorders have experienced childhood trauma. That's an insane number, and with that increases the risk of psychiatric disorders. And when you have a psychiatric disorder, you are more apt to take a drug, which then turns into this awful cycle. And secondly, childhood trauma affects how you raise your own kids. Many people that have childhood trauma suffer with PTSD. According to the National Child Traumatic Stress Agency, it raises the risk for interpersonal violence with a family by more than 40%. What happens is these kids that grow into adults that then have post-traumatic stress disorder were never taught good, solid interpersonal relationships and end up abusing their own children. And then what happens to these children? They end up doing the same thing to their kids, not even knowing what they're doing. How sad is this? And again, this cycle that just doesn't stop. And thirdly, childhood trauma and mental health disorders are very closely related. In fact, the Taylor Francis Group says that 100% of women with pseudo-seizure disorder have struggled with childhood trauma. Pseudo-seizure disorder is a disorder which causes people to have seizures that aren't actually real. They're having them to cover up for something that they're truly afraid of. And this, obviously, is directly related to this child abuse that they suffered. The Nordic Journal of Psychology also says that trauma exposure in childhood causes ADHD, and kids that experience childhood trauma are 30 times more likely than the normal kid to have ADHD. So you have all these learning disorders, and you end up pairing all this together, and you can see what a great issue childhood trauma is. This may seem hopeless, but that's why Art with a Heart is here. That's why we founded it 21 years ago. And we have success stories to back it up I can think of the 8-year-old little boy that talks about the first day that he went, and all he did was color a couple of pictures. He was so scared to show his story, and didn't want anybody to know what had happened to him. But as he was reading books and talking to other kids and started relating on a different level that he wasn't all alone, just a few weeks into the program, he's playing with the kids, he's laughing, he's having a blast. True evidence that art with a heart makes a difference. So how can you be involved? Yes, the obvious answer, we need money. It's always about the money, right? And I know in the back of your mind you're saying, yeah, I said I'd give $30 a month and this is great, but how do I know where my money's going? How do I know if it's making a difference? I get this monthly newsletter, but I don't know if there's really a difference there. I don't know if this is making a difference. So, volunteer. Come help us 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month. Whatever you can do. Come read to these kids, or maybe even host an art night at your house. Buy some art supplies and help these kids and make a difference in their lives. How many times have you known there was a problem with anything and you kind of ignored it? Or maybe you literally sat back and complained about it. Said, why can't people just deal with their issues? Well, Art with a Heart gives you the opportunity to do that. And it's just a small piece of your time or a small donation that can make the biggest difference, so that maybe one less kid sleeps in your town or in the town that I live in a warm bed tonight instead of in a cold, dark, damp warehouse all alone because of the difference that you were able to make.